secrets to six-figure speakers, this is a place to be. Audience Box /live. And so today we are speaking with the amazing Kamila. Hey Kamila, how are you?
Hello.
Jump in. There we go. Hold on. Let me pin you. And ta-da, here you are. So you're in Houston, right?
Yes, I'm based in Houston right now.
And you've been working with speakers.
Yes, I've had a business consulting after I left corporate, and I also have a philosophy degree and a doctorate from the academia. So we tend to work with a lot of different people who are looking to be public speakers, and I've probably seen hundreds of businesses come and go, and the landscape has really changed. That's why I was excited to do the interview, because a lot of the advice out there, sadly, it's outdated. And outdated means it worked in 2017. So that's just the crazy world that we live in now, that you're going to have to battle if you want to get paid to be a public speaker. So
it's very interesting. So let me just move this out and let's see if we can get some of this to connect. And so we can get some comments coming in. There we go. So it's very interesting because I just started researching and asking people about the speaking industry and what's going on and how they're doing it. And I keep hearing the TED Talk environment has changed the game. Technology has changed the game. Live video like we're doing right now has changed the game. Is that something that you're experiencing too?
Yes, 100%. The biggest change I've seen is that because of the technology, it allows almost anyone to enter the marketplace and make themselves a public speaker. And that's created a very difficult environment for people that used to get booked easily to speak. And now they are competing against 120 people who will do the same conference for free.
Yeah.
And that has created a huge pressure on the people that public speaking used to be their main way of making money. They would just get paid for speaking. And that's almost going away now in terms of the future and setting up your speaking business for 2019. Even if you're used to getting paid $5,000 a speech, $10,000 a speech, $15,000 a speech, we're rapidly entering an environment where unless you're doing corporate training, meaning you speak at conferences or Gold Circle Award dinners for companies and things like that, it's going to be very, very difficult to be highly paid just based on your speech alone. And so the biggest secret really from the people that are speaking and you think of them as famous and you know them, they have a whole machine behind the scenes that you don't realize is making all of their money.
Oh, wow.
They are doing books that they've published. They are doing online courses. They are doing group trainings and workshops. They are doing masterminds. They are doing retreats. They are doing corporate consulting, or they consult with NGOs and nonprofits, and they get paid as a consultant. So public speaking is just their way in to introduce themselves as an expert on the topic, but then really to get paid in the 6 figures and 7 figures, you need to be solving a problem for an audience.
So it's no longer only about being a speaker on stage, but you have to have a back end that actually makes you the money, because the speaking is basically just a tool to market yourself. Is that right?
For someone that's brand new and looking to enter public speaking as a profession, if you want to make 6 figures right away, then yes, doing a simple talk in your town in front of 100 real estate agents on, say, how to deal with their social media, and then getting even 10% of the room to buy your $1,000 video that you recorded as an online course, yes, you make $10,000 in that 2-hour period. If you're looking for somebody to pay you $10,000 to show up and make a talk, no one's going to do that unless you've had a lot of experience and you're a best-selling author and you've done your routes with the conference organizers and you've spent 2 years building your credibility, doing $2,000 talks and $3,000 talks and free talks. So for someone just starting today, honestly, having something that you're able to offer, $10,000, where your expertise is applicable to the real world and solve somebody's problem that they're having, you're going to do very well. The 3 main areas in demand right now that are not corporate speaking are wellness, relationships, obviously, and then money. So anything to do around making money and investments and saving for retirement and starting a business and flipping real estate properties, you will do very well. If you're doing wellness, nutrition, health, parenting, you will do very well there as well. The reason that most speakers fail is that they just want to like help people, and they have a lot of expertise, but they haven't really figured out, who they're helping specifically and what specifically they're teaching them and how specifically they're solving some issue that person might have. And then it's very difficult because there are hundreds of thousands of conferences each year. So if you're not niched down into I'm helping environmental companies build better solar in rural areas or something like that, it's very difficult to get scheduled on that conference, to just talk about how the environment is important or something generic like that. So those things, they kind of go hand in hand. Without the public speaking, you're not going to be known. But you need to be known in order to have that back end going. So you should be doing both at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of people are, okay, so let's talk about that because to get known, I heard you say you start in your local area, or do you use online as well to kind of start building your online reputation and your connection and your audience and your traffic and like social proof around what it is that you're doing?
Right, absolutely. So there are the different careers, different levels of a career for a speaker. If you're just starting out, then being on LinkedIn and having a best-selling book, which we would recommend Amazon Kindle self-publishing, because that's really the fastest way to have a best-selling book, get the word out. And what happens is also like what you do with Audience in a Box, getting them out on YouTube, Facebook Live, and all of these channels matters a lot because these days, when somebody searches for a speaker on a given topic, they go to Google.
Yeah.
That's just what they do. And if they're looking to buy something, a solution, they go to Amazon. And they search the same thing and they look to buy a book or a video or a training, or they do the same thing in Google. So what you have to realize today is that in terms of SEO searches and how you get your name and your company and your speaker reel on page one, Google owns YouTube, Facebook owns Instagram, and Amazon is responsible for 55% of all retail online. So that's those top three things will get you on page one. If you just have your own website, you could spend $100,000 a month and you still might not get on page one for a highly contested topic like, self-help for ADHD children and their parents or whatever it is that you're teaching, right?
Right.
So when you have a YouTube channel with 6 to 10 testimonials and the keywords that you need for your topic, then Google automatically puts you on page one. And it can happen within 48 hours and you didn't pay anything for it. It's just that because Google gets all of their money from YouTube advertising. So they want everyone who goes to Google to transfer onto YouTube as quickly as possible and stay there for as long as they possibly can keep them there.
Right. So one of the things
people forget. Yeah. Amazon, same thing. If you write a book and have it on your website, nothing will happen, even if it's the best publisher in the world. But if you're on Amazon, immediately you will be number one as, if you say Yifat book, all of a sudden you're on page number one for that. So it's something that people neglect in terms of authority building. And LinkedIn can be the only website that you ever need. Because if you're dealing with conference organizers, then having professional connections is where you want to be for that. Like being a public speaker on Instagram, not so great unless, you're doing like lifestyle influencing and blogging with hair and makeup. Probably, LinkedIn is not going to work for you. For everyone else, I would say that LinkedIn is the only website you ever need. You should not spend $70,000 building out your personal website. That's not the way to get on page one of anybody's search.
So I'm actually gonna contradict you on that one, and the reason is because I have built my entire brand, my speaking career, my client career, all my coaching and everything, just using Google Plus, right? So Google Plus just came to be, and I became the G Plus go-to gal, and I started doing shows and interviews and lives like we're doing right now, but only on YouTube and only on Google. And from that, I was one niche, one expert, one topic. And when Google Plus was this big thing, then everybody kind of like, okay, speak on my stage, be on my podcast. My reputation grew. And then one morning, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, Google woke up and goes like, well, you know what? We're done with Google Plus.
Right.
No more Google Plus. 90,000 followers gone. Relationship engagement, all the stuff is gone. And now we have about 12 months to move people to our own email list and our own website. So I agree with you that, we should use social media to kind of like boost our presence. But I always feel like you have to have a home, a mailing list, your own website where you're training your audience to kind of like dump their addiction in social media and come and interact with you, because that's the only thing that you own, right? Like you could wake up tomorrow and Facebook would be like, okay, Kamila, pay me $50 to access the community that you built, to access the group that you built, right? And now they're holding you hostage, or they can just cancel your Facebook access, right? You might be banned, or Instagram, same thing, right? So if your entire audience is on a social platform that you don't own, then you don't own your audience, you don't own your presence, you don't own your content.
Yes, and I agree with that 100%. What I was talking about more is if you're a public speaker that wants to get known and famous in 24, 48 hours, right? Yeah. Then you will need to use those big three. You can't get away from it.
Yes.
And then obviously, yes, there is the step 2 where immediately, what are we doing? What are we offering? What do we have for them to be on our email list, in our group, in our connection? And you're correct. Most influencers, speakers, consultants, and creators have used Facebook groups that they create to run their online course chat room, which makes a lot of sense because Facebook is the place where people are all day long. But there is a risk associated with that if you're not good at keeping records and making sure that you have those people somewhere else, that you know who they are and they can find you. My comment about not spending $50,000 on a website is, for the person that wants to be a public speaker and live their corporate career, they should be really focusing on being a best-selling author and getting booked at conferences and creating a course and a workshop. And they should not be using their money to build a website for nobody. Yes. Until you know who you want to work with and you have an audience. So what you do, which is create the audience in a box, is like the number one most important thing that I would recommend somebody do, is to hook up with somebody like you and do that. But if you want to be on page 1 within 24 to 48 hours, then sadly having a YouTube channel and a book on Amazon is the fastest free way to get there. So just to clarify what I meant.
Totally. And so we're talking about hey Elizabeth, we're talking about two kinds of speakers, right? Those who already built their platform, already built their name and reputations, and those who are just starting out. And like you're saying, if you're just starting out and you want to be known out there, then you need to get the presence. And Kamila says, okay, grab a book on Amazon, grab your profile, start doing live videos, right? So you kind of build your speaker reel. I've even heard people saying that the one sheet is not needed anymore. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to get paid for speaking, you have to know conference organizers and CEOs of companies. And getting to know them on LinkedIn by messaging them or writing great articles on LinkedIn that is shared a lot, or doing what you do with Audience in a Box, where you're doing a lot of live talks and kind of get people to know you. That's going to be the number one way, because everyone can have a one sheet, right? Everyone can have a speaker reel. That's not really what people are worried about when they book a speaker. They want to know, are you going to make me look bad? Right? So being a published speaker does that. Are you going to sell tickets for me? Right? So having the audience in a box and saying, look, I have 80,000 people on Instagram. I have this many on my email list. That is something that makes people feel secure about the fact that you're not going to tank their conference or their interview or their show or whatever it is that they're thinking of inviting you to. You know, and then for somebody that's already has an established career and they already have those networks, they don't even really need anything. So I've worked with clients in the past where, you know, non-disclosure agreements means that I can't tell you exactly the name. But imagine that, you know, they're a congressman or a senator, or they used to be somebody that worked for an NGO and they're heavily involved with the United Nations. And now they're like retired and they want to do talks at colleges.
Yeah.
You know, they don't need any of that stuff. Right? We just create a best-selling book about their experiences and off we go. And they can get paid $200,000 per speech.
Wow.
If you're a retired 4-star general, you're going to get invited to international colleges to talk all day long about leadership, about running teams, about, giving back, about service. There's like 100 different topics really that they can choose to focus on, and they will never, and then you don't need any of that, right? So the authority building and the credibility building has to do with the less experience you have in your given topic and the fewer years that you've actually done it, the more you're going to have to spend on building your credibility online, if that makes sense.
Totally. So would you say that, okay, so actually reversed, you're talking about creating books, right? And books are a great, now it's the new business card, right? Like if you don't have a book, it's kind of like, well, who are you, right? But you have two types of authors. You have the Amazon famous and you have the New York Times best-selling author. How does that translate into speaking gigs, booking, getting paid for your talks and all that stuff?
Okay, well, that's a great question. I've been involved with book publishing for, I don't even know, 20 years maybe. And in the olden days, you had to go to Poland or Hong Kong, print 20,000 books, put them on a container, deal with customs, ship them, start a company, spend $100,000, get a storage unit, do a book tour. Traditional publishing existed because there was really no way for a single author, single person to do all that on their own unless they were very, very wealthy, independent.
Yeah.
Now, Amazon Kindle came along 6.5 years ago and disintegrated the traditional publishing model. Just killed it. Like, why would you spend 7 years, touring for a $2,000 advance to get nowhere?
Right.
Now you're giving 7 years of your copyright information to the publishing company. You can't even create a workshop based on your book because they own your intellectual property. It's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is, though, if you want to get paid per speech and you're in a certain topic, like if you're a doctor who invented a new process on like healing your post-traumatic stress disorder that you got as a soldier in Afghanistan, and that's your topic and that's your talk. If you were not published like in the New England Journal of Medicine, or a book publishing company that specifically deals with medical issues and research and things like that, then, like Kindle may not be the place for you. Mm-hmm. But 95% of public speakers exist in the area where we're solving normal problems for normal people. And then being on Amazon is really the wise choice from my point of view. And I know I'm biased because I teach self-publishing for subject matter experts.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's my thing, because I know that out of all the things you could be doing to establish your credibility and authority and get famous and known, having a book is like the number one cheap thing that you can do right away.
Yeah.
And get done in 2 weeks. Like there's just nothing else that's going to take that short amount of time based on your effort and your investment compared to what you're going to get back.
Okay, so pause for a second.
10 books to CEOs of companies. If only one of them gives you a $100,000 contract to establish a wellness program at the company and go speak once a month for an hour to the employees on how to take advantage of wellness programs, there's just really, you can't match that by having a traditional publishing company contract because it takes 2 to 3 years for that to even get through editing. Right?
Yeah. So hold on a second. So let's dive into that for a second, because yes, it might take you 2 weeks to write a book. If they're using you, they know exactly how to do that. Potentially you can get that in 2 weeks, but just having a book is almost like just having a website, right? It's not enough just to have a book. Now you need to promote. Now you need the relationships. Now you need some kind of sauce behind it. No?
Absolutely. Yes. When I work privately with clients, I don't let them publish anything unless we've worked with 6 to 10 clients. We know what we're teaching. We know who wants to be taught, who our audience is. And so we're writing it for them. Mm-hmm. We would the things 7 ways to influence people and make friends and, secrets of the rich and, 30 days to lose 100 pounds and get a hot girl to marry you. That just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
You really need to get clear on how you're called to serve the world and who you want to help and what you want to help them with to get the most success. Like I said, if you're just doing a generic leadership thing, mm-hmm. unless you're a 4-star general, unless you used to be at the United Nations, then you're just not going to have the success with it that you could if you focused a little bit more on what it is that you want to do with your new phase in life as a public speaker that's making a lot of money doing it.
So that was another thing that you and I were talking about. There's a difference between corporate speaking, right, and on stage just event speaking, right? And from what I understand from you, the path that you have your clients go through is write a book, be known for that topic, and then go the corporate route rather than the event route. Is that right?
Event route is great for someone who is naturally an entrepreneur and they just love sales and marketing, and they can easily introduce 100 people in the room to their thing, through a signature talk, and say, hey, and by the way, I work with people privately, you can sign up for a free strategy call, or, oh, hey, I have $1,000 online program that goes more in depth into these issues, and just have them buy right there.
Yeah.
Because, if you're really looking to feed your family with your public speaking and you have a more general self-help kind of a topic, then that's going to be my number one recommendation, to do it that way. Now, if you're doing corporate training, then you're right. There's a way to make a lot more money, bypass a lot of those things, because you can just take whatever you were doing in the past, and instead of working at the company that was only paying you, your salary, you can now get paid as a consultant, work for 6 or 10 companies, and immediately, obviously, your income goes up 6 or 7 times. And you don't have to work 9 to 7 in the same place. So, there's a lot of business consultants who work with public speakers, and we all have like a little bit of a different take on it. And that's why most of us, if we're responsible, we will say, click the link over under the talk that we're doing right now, get in touch with my office, and I can talk to you, and based on an individual situation, I can tell you, which route you should be taking, because just now we described 3, but there's probably like 27 different ways that I've done it with people. But until I know what your experience is, what you're looking to do, how much money you want to make, and how many hours in the day you're willing to give it, because I have people who only want to work 1 hour a week and make 6 figures. I have other people who are willing to work 120 hours and travel internationally, and they're looking to make 7 figures. So everyone's totally different in terms of what we're building. Are we building a $6,000 corporate training? Are we building a $400 course for single moms? And so, this is just like doctors. You don't call the doctor and say, my knee hurts. And they say, well, I know just what you should do. You need surgery. I mean, that's ridiculous. They say, call us, come to the office. I will look at you. I will talk to you. I will do some tests. And then I will tell you which one of the 100 things we can do with a knee is appropriate for you specifically. Totally. I sometimes shy away from doing interviews, because then you always get those chats from people going, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And I go, it was a 15-minute interview,
So actually, guys, if you're watching us right now and you do want to jump in and kind of like chime into the conversation. Hi, Gail. Hey, Harrison, Felicia, Martin. I see all you guys are here. So if you actually do want to jump into the conversation and add your 2 cents. All you have to do is go to audience.inbox.com. Right below that, there is a button to click. Click on that, you'll jump into Zoom, and you can, add your 2 cents. Let us know of your experience, where you're doing. Hi, Maggie. We're going to drop you down here a little bit. There you go. Hey, Maggie. And so, hey, Harrison. So jump in and let us know. Don't just be watching us, be an active participant, right? As if you're in the audience right now, you're watching us in the same room. Come on into Zoom, say hi, let's talk to each other, and see if you have the same experience as Kamila does. And from what I'm hearing from the speaker, the speaker world, there's like you said, there's the 2 type of speakers. There's the one who are just doing it for fun, right? Like they love the rush of the stage. They love looking people in the eye. They love, that interaction. And you don't need makeup, Elizabeth. They love all that stuff. And that's why they are going into the public speaking, because like a performer, right? They want to get all that excitement and all that stuff. And then there are other people who would love that, but also like to sleep in their own bed. So they want to have different type of activities. Like you said, they might just work with one corporate company that pays all their bills and all that stuff. They travel when they want to, but most of the times they're eating dinner with their family and they're lying in their own bed, and they get all their social activities to kind of work for them. Is that what you find?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I have clients internationally all over the world where, if you're living in Thailand right now, then all you need is like one client a year, really, to be one of the wealthiest people in the town, and you don't need to do anything else. So, again, we go back to what is your goal with your speaking and why do you want to do it? We have a lot of people that, for example, have started a nonprofit. And so the reason they speak is to raise awareness of, I have one where, they go and they do dental work for children in Africa. Wow. And so they make speaking engagements work for them because they're fundraising for the nonprofit, right? Yeah. And so based on that goal, we would obviously not book them on necessarily like a corporate training type thing, right?
Yeah.
And so it really depends on, the talk, the market that they want to be in, how much they're willing to travel, and just so many other factors, honestly, that, sometimes people don't realize that they have to have a system. They think, I'll just go talk. And then once you kind of go down the rabbit hole, you realize how complicated it really is without a proven system and steps that you have to take, and without knowing what will work best for me, given where I am in life and my past experiences. It's like, honestly, the thing that I love about you and why I even agreed to do this interview, this is the first interview I've done in years, is that your thing works for almost any speaker. Because it's so important to be out there and start building that audience and then converting them into fans as quickly as possible. And, being everywhere with video is just the way to do it in 2019. I really believe that.
Yeah.
And it's not, something that only like a certain public speaker could use. If they're public speakers and they really want to do well with their speaking and reach a lot of people, then they're just going to have to tackle video and being everywhere. Like there's just no way really to get around it, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. And what's nice about, live video, the way we're doing it right now, is that this is kind of like giving you an international stage. You can be everywhere in front of the entire world if you wanted to, right there, interacting with them the same way Kamila and I are interacting right now. And Elizabeth is telling me something is wrong with our little button, so we're going to fix it in a second. But that will allow you to come in and speak to us as if we were in the same room, as if we were just like talking face to face to each other and communicating without actually leaving your house. And what's nice about that is that it gives you the video and the social proof and the interaction and all that jazz that you would get from live events. And you can still sleep in your own bed.
Oh gosh, I agree. Actually, I have a great example of that. One of my clients, Manny Wolf, he had a business and he was looking to transition into speaking and, being an entrepreneur. And so the first thing, actually, I brought it here just so people could see. So we published a book for him. See, and it's just a very simple kind of cover, because as a personal brand, I'm sure you've seen Suze Orman and everybody else, your face has to be on the cover. Regardless of how shy you are, it's just that's the way it is done today. And he has an amazing coaching and consulting company right now where he works with speakers on how to build a transformational talk, how to do proposals to be booked on TEDx. And he doesn't travel at all. He does all of his speaking really online, except for 2 live conferences that he does for his clients each year. So you're right, there's so many different ways to set that up. And, for Manny Wolf, that is working with transformational speakers on getting their talk and their voice training and all that. Is always telling me I speak too fast.
Maybe it's the international thing in us.
Voice, right? So there's just so many different ways to help others. And sometimes when you start out in public speaking, you don't always know what that is going to be for you, because you just haven't seen enough and you haven't done enough. And that's where it does help to have a coach, because for somebody like me, where I speak to 10, 20 people every day that are new people, I don't choose all of them as clients, but I know a lot about what goes on out there, the challenges they're having, what's working and what's not working. And, that's why I said if somebody wants like custom advice, just because they're like followers of your show, they can message me on Facebook or click that button you put out there and my office will take care of them. And I see, hello there. Hi.
Hello.
join in. I'm sure you have a ton to tell us about books, right?
I can tell you so much about books. But, I mean, you're doing such a good job on your own. Why would I? So, hi, everybody.
Hey, so what's nice about this is like, oh, this is so weird. Hold on a second. There we go. We just went into the rap hole of things. So, so what I what I like about this is that it sounds like, Kamila, there's like two ways of using speaking. One is become a keynote speaker known and paid just for your speaking careers. The other one is use speaking as a marketing tool and use the book as a marketing tool for your other activities, whether it's corporate training, whether it's your back-end program, your memberships, all your online stuff, right? So do you like how often or how many people do you know that actually make a career and a life just from being a speaker?
Okay, those people are usually an older generation that they've already had a big life and it's behind them. They were in corporate, they were in the military, they've traveled the world, they've ran a nonprofit, they've done things for 30, 45 years. And they've had built through that a network of influencers, conference organizers. They're not necessarily hard up for money. They don't have to pay their bills with their speaking, so they can be much more strategic about, well, I just won't work for 4 months until that $20,000 speech shows up that I'm really excited about, right? If you're someone younger looking to leave your corporate job and jump into public speaking, then probably way two will be more appropriate for you, if that makes sense.
Totally. And so what's interesting about that is the word that you said, they build a relationship, they build their connections, they build their audience. So now it's just a matter of tapping into that network and doing that. So if you don't have that network to tap into and you need to build that network, then what I hear you say is have a book and have someone that actually wants and have someone that actually has those connections so they can actually take your book and book you in speaking engagements, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's why one of the things that I've done for clients in the past 2 years is we've helped them launch a podcast or a show on YouTube. Exactly what you do really with your business, because having a show and being able to interview those people that I just mentioned who have those networks, those lists, those connections, and getting on their radar is kind of like a little bit of a shortcut. So instead of spending 7 years building a blog and trying to get a 10,000 person email list, I'm not going to lie, it is easier to do 10 interviews on your podcast with people who have 1 million followers already because they spent 7 years doing that stuff, right?
Right.
So, and that's just common sense, this is the part where sometimes the internet confuses people. Because they think just because it's online, we no longer follow the rules of sales, marketing, business principles, and human psychology. So all the things that people have done with each other for thousands of years to connect, to establish trust, to help someone, to collect the payment. Online, it just happens faster and it's bigger and you can reach more people at the same time. But, the human brain and what we consider trustworthy, none of that has changed at all.
Yeah.
So, sometimes people forget that they write emails as though they're talking to a robot. Like that's my pet thing now, that I get all these emails from people going, like a computer wrote it to another computer. And I'm like, no, an email is just a letter, and a letter is just knocking on your neighbor's door and telling them what you're up to. You have to keep the same language. Don't let the technology confuse you that now we're doing something totally different than what humans have done for thousands of years.
I love that you say that. Thank you, Maggie. She says it's awesome content. I love that you love it. What I love about what you're saying is exactly true. The minute we have the internet and everybody's marketing, we kind of like forget how to have conversations. Just talk to people, right? Like every conversation that happens online today is like, buy my shit, 50% off, 25% off. Don't you want to do this? Don't you be an expert? Don't you want to be a sought after speaker? You need to buy this thing, right? So it's kind of like the level of trust online is like really, really disappearing. And it makes what you're saying about relationships and networks so much more vital because we just don't trust each other. So when you're interacting with event planners, what are the things that they come to you and go like, hey, this is what I want a speaker to have before I can book them?
Okay, don't laugh. Okay, I know I sound like a broken record, but they want them to be a published author on their topic.
Okay.
Okay, that's like the number one thing I hear. Do they have a book? And if they don't have a book, I can't make the conversation go forward, especially if it's a TV or a radio show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just really, really difficult. If it's like a local Rotary Club, it's a whatever, you know, but if it's like a bigger thing, then yeah, they want you to have a book, and they're worried about, is this person going to make me look bad in front of my boss?
Oh.
Because, you know, what you got to realize is the people who book speakers for conferences, shows, TV programs and radio, it's usually an intern or somebody that just started. And they were told, okay, it's National Tractor Week. Find me somebody for a 5-minute thing about tractors.
Okay.
And then so when you call up, or my company calls up on behalf of my person, and we say, you know, hey, we have a guy and he wrote a book on, you know, dealing with the agricultural challenges in North Dakota, you know, and then we just do a little proposal, then it just helps them to know that we care about them and their objective. And when they book that person, their boss is not going to say, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
That lady didn't know anything about tractors and it was horrible.
So when you say about, you know, looking at a book, and thanks, Maggie, she's agreeing that online is just a tool to build relationships. So when they're looking for a book, do they care? Like, do they read the book, or do they just want to see, hey, I have a book in Amazon, I have a book somewhere, and that's enough to kind of build credibility?
Well, let me ask you something. Has anyone ever asked you what you majored in and what your GPA was in college? Or do they just ask, if you want to be a manager, you have a college degree, do you have a college degree? So this is
that kind of made the whole college degree thing completely silly to me. And I'm like, why did I even waste my time?
So this is exactly the same thing. Having a book is like having a college degree. There's just certain conferences that if you don't have a book, they're not going to talk to you at the end. And nobody cares what your book was. Nobody reads it. Like, I mean, I don't want to like make fun of it, okay? Because I have a lot of amazing clients who really have amazing ideas on how to make the world a better place through, you know, like here in Houston, for example, there's a lot of people who know how to fix the flooding, but they haven't been listened to because they don't have a platform. So, you know, doing a book for them and getting them on TV and radio to change public policy in Washington, D.C., you know, it's really, really important work.
Yes.
But if your job as a public speaker, you know, at the colleges teaching, say, you know, investments or something at the MBA program, you know, then you just need a book about investments at MBA programs. And, you know, chances are the conference organizer will never buy it or look at it or read it. They just want to know that you know what you're talking about, and that's one credibility indicator to them that you do. Then maybe you worked at an investment firm for 10 years. That's another credibility indicator, right? So it's always a combination of factors, you know, just like your college application was, right? They wanted to know your extracurriculars. They wanted to know your grades. They wanted to know if your classes were advanced or not. They wanted to know your SATs. They wanted to know your ethnic background. They wanted to know a lot of things before they made a decision. Yeah. And so conference organizers, they always look at more than one thing. But I found that having experience in the field, having some testimonials, a speaker reel, and a published book, you know, that's usually a combination where you will not get rejected anywhere because you don't have enough credibility indicators. You may get rejected because they don't want to pay you, and there's 120 other speakers who have that and decided to speak for free, right? So that goes back to what is your plan B in terms of products and services that you can bring with you to the talk, right? Because it really opens up the world to you. You know,
hi Leo, hi Itzhak, welcome to the show. Jump on in and come and talk to us. Elizabeth, your experience in the authors and speakers and publishing world, what are your 2 cents?
I think that if you have a book that is professionally published from a publisher, I mean, self-publishing is great. But if you have one where you actually have it from a publisher, that's an extra mark of credibility. My clients have used that to seal 7 million, 7-figure deals, consulting deals. It's there is a certain cachet about having a traditionally published book. And if you can do it as a speaker, and there's ways to do it. I mean, you can start off with self-publish and take those numbers to a publisher and show them, hey, I can sell books. Then, I mean, there's different methods to get a published book, but having one is probably one of the best calling cards you can have. I mean, one way to get to, is to send your book to speaking organizations. Send it to every organization that's attached to your particular topic. I have a friend who speaks on addiction, and he actually got to speak in Paris this year because he sent out all of his information. So
were they looking for anything other than the book before they flew him to Paris? Because that's a big trip.
Well, I mean, the book got him in the door.
Yeah.
But then he were like, oh, hey, you're the real deal. Can I see some more of your stuff? And then he sent a speaking reel. He sent his one sheet. And, now instead of talking in Chicago, he's talking in Paris.
And he's getting paid for that talk, right? So his entire strategy was like, get the book and get paid speaking, not necessarily be a consultant or sell anything on the back end.
Right. I mean, he still does consulting gigs because, as Kamila mentioned, I mean, it's not one of those things where you necessarily will get to rest on your laurels. It's like everything is interconnected. The speaking gigs lead to consulting gigs. The consulting gigs lead to speaking gigs. The speaking gigs lead to more books. The books lead to more speaking. And It's a whole big nest of ways that they're all interconnected.
Love it. So it sounds like, if you want to become a successful speaker, if you even want event planners to look at you, then you have to market yourself. You have to have some assets in place, like a book, like your social profiles, like your speaking reel. And if you don't have a speaking reel yet because you haven't done that, will the online world be a good replacement? I don't want to say replacement, but like, will it be a good way to do that? Kamila, you're muted, darling.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I just didn't want to breathe over Elizabeth's thing. Yeah, so totally. The thing is, though, that it will be better and faster to just, even on something as simple as Craigslist, just get a film student that's an amazing videographer to come for like $250, rent a $25 room at a hotel somewhere, invite 30 people and just do a talk and get it on camera. Like, honestly, it's just because of the technology being so available. Yeah. Like Elizabeth probably remembers 25 years ago, if you wanted a speaker's reel, you actually had to work really hard to get in a room, and it cost $40,000 to produce 40-minute videotapes. Like, I mean, today it's like literally free. You just need to hire somebody to come and hold an iPhone. And if your lighting is good and your video is on track, you're going to be fine. So sometimes people overthink it, with a speaker. Yeah. You just need to give people that will book you a chance to see your signature talk and what you are like on stage, right? Some people are very hyped up. Other people are very like kind of low key. Other people use a lot of data. Like, everyone's just kind of different. So the whole point of the speaker reel is just let them get to know you better and what it would be like to hire you. And that has to be on brand, So brand strategists will tell you, don't pretend to be somewhere you're not in your speaker reel, because then when you actually show up in person, there will be a disconnect with what they wanted to get and what they're getting.
Right.
Because you can fake it in the speaker reel that you're somebody else, but, in a 1 hour interaction, your real personality will come out. So don't try to hide it in the speaker reel. Just project what you want to project for your speaking engagements. And that's really, the craziest advice that I've ever gotten. And Elizabeth was actually with me. We were at a book conference in Los Angeles. And afterwards, I spoke to a bunch of people in a mastermind who worked in Hollywood. And I said, look, I'm a philosopher. I want to do a show about current events. I help people with the economy and entrepreneurship and starting their own companies so they can get away from that grind that doesn't pay all the bills. And they said, well, you can't do that looking at you unless you cut your hair and you have a breast reduction.
What?
And you're wearing makeup. We can't have you on a political channel. Because your face that you have from when you were able to do modeling just tells us that you should be a lifestyle brand, and we can book you selling lipsticks.
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
I mean, which is the most surreal thing that I ever went through, where basically they told me if only you change everything about yourself, then you can have a show on network television.
You know what's funny about that is like most women want to be prettier, and you're actually going like, yeah, I'm sorry, you're too pretty.
Well, no, I wasn't too pretty. I was just too pretty for philosophy, right? But sadly, I was born in Czechoslovakia when it was a communist country, and I came here for freedom of opportunity and freedom of expression and being able to say what I do. So to me, that was just a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Somebody else, maybe they don't care about that at all. But my brand has always been, I don't have a website. I don't care. I do lives from my car. I have kids in the background. If that's a problem for you, don't work with me.
Right.
Because when I was in corporate and I was in charge of 7 states, traveling 220,000 miles a year by car and getting on planes twice a month, and I was pretending that not only did I not have a family, I was trying to pretend that I'm not even a woman. And I did very well in corporate, but it's just not how I envisioned my entire life. I only did that to learn the things that I could then take to my clients as a consultant.
Yeah.
Right? Because I couldn't do the work I do now without having that paid internship. That's what I always looked at it, right? I'm on Wall Street, so I understand how funds work. So I understand how IPOs work. I'm not here because, I'm hoping to start crazy hedge funds and break the world economy.
Yep.
Right? So that's something that as a speaker, you will have to work really, really hard to keep the noise away and remember why you wanted to start speaking in the first place and what it is that you're here to do. And don't let anybody talk you into, maybe I should have a jacket, or maybe, I should have a professional studio. Maybe I should do this. Maybe if that's not your thing and that's not why you wanted to be a speaker, then don't do it because there's 7 billion people on the planet. Overseas corporation pay tens of thousands of dollars for American speakers to come over, especially if you're doing any kind of corporate training or anything like that. And there's just no reason to pretend. This isn't the 1950s where the market was very limited. And, if you didn't have the right look, you just couldn't make anything happen because the networks only hired white guys in a suit with a tie.
Yeah.
And some of us still are trapped in that mindset that if only I dress differently or talk differently or have a different degree or have a different book or a better book or a traditionally published book or a New York Times bestselling, and people just overthink it. You can make 6 figures in 30 days with like a simple talk and an online course, and you can email the course. You don't need to do anything that all the gurus are telling you that you need to do. You need to die. The only thing in the world that you can't avoid is dying. Everything else, you get to pick if you're in a Western country in good health. Don't let anybody make you feel like there's something you have to do.
Yeah, and this is why I really, really love live interaction shows like this. Hey Gary, hey Hermione, hey Jorge. One, you get to talk to people, and build those relationships and connect with them. 2, you get to be yourself. Like you can fake it in text, and like I always say that, fake it in text, fake it in images, fake it in a room, a speaking room. You can fake edited videos and all that stuff. You cannot fake live interaction. You laughing like this uncontrollably, I was like, okay, I immediately connect. I was like, okay, she's human, she's laughing. I like the way she laughs. I like the way she comes across. You don't fake that. You can't get that in, edited stuff. And I think with today's trust levels and the rates of like how trust is just going down, live is a great way to connect with people. And I agree with what you said. A lot of people are using live videos not branded at all, right? Like just like you from a phone and just being themselves and creating that content and getting out there without all the stuff that the gurus tell you that you need. But you do need a system because otherwise those lives will be everywhere. The content will be everywhere. Nothing is going to follow a path that actually gets you the outcomes that you want. So we're starting with the outcome. What do you want? Do you want to get paid for your speaking? Do you want to be a corporate trainer? Do you want to be a corporate speaker? Do you want to make money from speaking? Do you want to make money from the back end? Which is funny to say. And then you decide on the path that you're taking. And like you said, with today's technology, the world is not limited to just stages. Your stage can be your website, or it can be your social platforms, or it can be just your name and getting out there. So there are a lot of options, and it sounds very complicated when you get started. So what would be like, let's end this show with like this first step that people need to do in order to get started just building the brand and getting their names out there and getting in front of those event planners. I think you're going to say a book, but let's see.
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, you can't do a book unless you know what you're trying to accomplish with your speaking career. You know, so the first thing actually is clarity on where you're trying to get to, exactly like you said, because, you know, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which way you go.
That's true.
Right? And it's just that having some sort of an end in mind, it will at least eliminate some of those thousands of options that are out there, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, the other thing about goal setting in general that I want to leave people with is that you just need to have an idea of where you want to go, eliminate the places and ways that definitely will not get you there, and then kind of pick the 2 or 3 that you think and just kind of go with it. And evaluate as you go. You know, when a rocket goes to the moon, it's off 90% of the time. And there's a computer feeding the chip, and it's always just changing the trajectory, and the computer keeps getting it back on the track. So sometimes people get hung up on the fact that they think they need all the steps and everything figured out before they can make a phone call. They think they need to know exactly how I'm going to do it before I even get there, right? They need to know like every single little thing that will happen, and then they will get started.
Yeah.
And so, you know, having clarity and taking action and constantly evaluating if the actions you're taking are getting you closer on the right track or a little further from the right track is like the most important thing, really, I think, that a speaker or anybody looking for a lifestyle business should be thinking about and executing on first. Because without that, none of the tactics, systems, and strategies are really going to help you, because you won't be able to figure out which one you should be using, and you won't be able to take action and implement it. You know, people just get lost. I have clients that have thousands of courses, programs, masterminds in their inbox, in their email, that they can't even read the sales letter. Oh. You know, because there's just so much being thrown at them by very well-meaning coaches, but you just can't execute all the strategies all at the same time.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So. Simple is better. Simple is better. So thank you so much. You and I have talked about avatars and some of those other business stuff. So we're going to jump to that. We're going to have another one of these because it's so much fun. But we're going to dive into like why Kamila thinks that avatars are a big BS.
Yeah, don't get me started because it'll be on for like 5 hours. Okay.
So we'll do that in another episode, and we invite you to kind of like get over the blockage of not having an avatar and actually taking action and moving forward. So I want to say thank you so much, Kamila and Elizabeth, for jumping in. Thank you everybody who's been watching. Thanks Maggie for your comments, and Jorge and Gary and Hermione and everybody. Next time, jump in and say hi. So if you guys want to connect with me, Audience in a Box /live, there are links there to do that. If you want to connect with Kamila, Audience in a Box /live, there's a link there to do that. If you want to, thank you, Maggie. If you want to follow up, stay in touch, any questions or any comment, just put them below, or just go to Audience in a Box /live. You'll have all the information there, and we will see you guys in another episode. Thanks, Kamila.
Thanks, guys. Bye.